Hey everybody, welcome back to the House of L. I'm Derek.
I'm Graham.
And we are here to talk about week 2 of Lanterns, episode 2, Trust Fall. And I feel like we could probably be here doing it all night because
this
my goodness.
episode, man, oh my gosh, it had everything. We got the lantern, we got a bird construct, we got huge action set piece, Hal in the suit, going off planet. Like, what more could you ask for?
I had Craig Byrne text me and said, we got in episode 2 of Lanterns what we didn't get in 218 episodes of Smallville.
Exactly. I could just feel the, I don't go way back with this character or the comics of this character, but I could just feel the excitement from the fans of this character from this episode. There were so many little Easter eggs, so many references to comics from 1985 and things like that. I honestly think the reaction to this episode might be like even more positive than the last episode. At least it was for me. I felt like this episode was even better than the pilot, the pilot, or the episode named Pilot.
It was definitely on par for me, if not better. I was fully engrossed again. It's been a while since I've had appointment television where, and I know in this day and age, I'm bad about picking up a phone, not in the movies, but like during a TV show, I'm bad about, looking at my phone or something. And I finished that episode last night, and I know you had texted me a couple of times. I didn't answer you until I had finished it because I
made sure I had watched it first.
Well, it's not even that. I hadn't picked up the phone. I hadn't looked at my phone. I was so enthralled in what was going on. I mean, we talk about the suit, and we'll get there when we get there, but I wasn't expecting that in the second hour. But I was just happy to see him in his mask in the opening of the second episode. I didn't really think we were going to get to see Hal proper in the suit by the end of it. So there was like you said, there's a lot of Easter eggs. There's a lot of things that I had to look up, even knowing what I do know. And I was like, some of that is above my pay grade.
And the stuff that you had to look up, I went over my head definitely. But when I had it explained to me or when I looked it up myself, I was like, that is amazing. This show is doing something. It's fan service, but it's also like it works. It's not cheesy, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it felt
it's doing the Lord's work.
I'm specifically talking about the Mogo doesn't socialize part, but that is
at least I knew that one. That one I knew.
I was going to ask you, did you know that? Like, because
I did because I knew that comic, and I know that I think I have that comic, that cover of that's kind of the iconic cover of John rejecting the mask and not doing it the way Hal does. And in the background, Hal's like, you got to wear a mask. And he's like, I'm not going to do it.
I didn't know the lore of that, but when I looked it up, I was like, oh man, there can be a Green Lantern that's a whole planet. That's interesting. And and the fact that this phrase
can't get to Oa because the gravitational pull would kill him. So he's there's a reason he doesn't socialize.
So good. But before we get into just talking about the episode, I know the reaction. We mentioned the reaction to the first episode and our sort of trailer discussion kind of midweek last week. And at that point, I think you could feel that people were excited about the show, but now we have kind of data that people are excited about the show. This was, what was it? One of the top 3 ever HBO
top
Max,
5 HBO Max premieres. Yeah,
9.3 million streams. I guess you would call it. That's impressive, I would say.
And that doesn't even include. And I've not even seen what viewership was just from watching on HBO. I thought it was pretty cool.
Right. I wonder if they looped that in, or if this is just streamed.
I think it's its own number. I don't think that they include that because they've made such specifics on the HBO Max notch of it. But I really enjoyed too, and they kind of did it again this week. Although that is a traditional HBO thing to show the episode before generally, than going into the next episode. But last week they showed Superman leading into the pilot, which I
And this time it was like a double feature. They played the first episode before the second episode. I like that.
Second episode. So I went back and watched the pilot again ahead of the second episode just to just to kind of have that.
How many times did you get up to before episode 2 aired? I think I watched 4 times.
So I watched twice before we recorded, and then that was my third time watching ahead of the second episodes. And I've watched Trust Fall twice.
I'm already up
now,
to
and I
2.5.
I still don't feel like I'm prepared.
I know there's so much to cover.
I know. I'm glad that they split them up this week. So it does give us kind of a dividing rod of how to tackle it, but it's man, they pack a lot in, and you made that comment last week of not wasting a word, and I mean they very much are aware of the fact that they have 8 weeks to tell this story. I misspoke last week, and I need to clear that up. I did say that the show had been picked up for season 2, and I meant to say the show is being written for season 2. It has not yet been greenlit. I really expected it.
Okay. Because I saw a comment on Threads that was like, please greenlight.
Yeah.
Green Lantern season 2. I'm like, I thought they already did, according to Derek.
Yeah.
I never fact checked Derek because Derek's always right. And so
I messed that one up. I knew they're working on it, but they have not picked it up yet. And I'm really shocked after seeing all the after getting all its flowers this week that didn't immediately come with the season 2 renewal. I'm sure we'll see it sooner rather than later.
That's coming down the pipe at some point. Like, but you don't get reactions like this without at some point some announcement, some extra sort of karma of, by the way, we already greenlit it. So that'll happen soon.
That's going to get hard to see. Green lantern, yeah, greenlit lanterns. And I don't know about you, and of course I just look at Shoes stuff, but when Tim tells me to, but I know how the algorithms, well, I don't know how the algorithms work, but I know the algorithms well enough to know my feed is nothing but lanterns. Like everywhere I look I
wonder if lantern. Because it seems like, I know I follow a lot of people that are into DC, so it feels like every time there's a new DC thing, so be it Superman, Supergirl, Green Lantern, my feed on Threads is just like, here's 17 posts about Green Lantern and 1 post about something not Green Lantern, and then it keeps going to Green Lantern. So I don't know if that's just a Threads thing, if the algorithm is just trying to give you more of what you want, but it's nice to open up social media and see people raving about the show
positive
that we're all
things.
Excited. Yeah, and very positively too as well. I don't know if that's being tuned by sponsorships and money and all that stuff. Who knows? I'm so jaded on the social media thing, but I am enjoying checking my Threads every once in a while and being like, oh, here's another cool theory that somebody had about this episode. And I've written down a few of them.
I love how the
memes are great too.
Has taken just over everything. The breadth of your opinion. That whole meme has just
that has really taken off.
It really has, and I appreciate it because it's so well done in the episode. Of course, kudos again, Kyle Chandler, Aaron Pierre, for knocking another episode out of the park this week. The show, they could be recycling scripts from Bozo the Clown, and I feel like the two of them would still have chemistry, reciting ridiculous things to each other. So when you get the good dialogue and the good writing that we are getting from Mundy and Lindelof and King, and I've already forgotten who wrote this week's episode. Forgive me, but I'm so impressed that they're able to bring this together. And the other thing I've seen a lot of specifically today is the by the way, this all happens in the same universe kind of mentality. The Superman, the Supergirl, the Creature Commandos, the Peacemaker, that all this, and I think
kind of reinforcing that this was all part of the plan all along.
Right,
we didn't just
and I think
upon this.
James Gunn reposted. I don't know what you call it there. Somebody who I think meant it disparagingly of this all takes place in the same universe, showing the posters from each property, and he's like, "Funny how that works, doesn't it?" And it was all these random comic covers, from DC. Over the last however many decades, and it's true. It's funny to think about the things that do take place. Yes, you have this immaculate, just incredible acting from Kyle and Aaron, just chewing up the dialogue in the scene with each other, and then you have Guy Gardner's haircut. So these things can coexist in a universe together. The other news bit I saw this week is Guy Gardner was getting a new haircut in Man of Tomorrow, and I wonder if that had to do with the popularity of Lanterns.
I feel like if you're gonna put it in Lanterns and in Superman, it's got to stay. Unless there's a reason to change it, which I'm sure they'll find one.
I probably Lois making fun of it in Superman. Maybe he styles it a little differently. But what were your takeaways from this one before we kind of?
I would just say my reaction at the end of this was like, after that last 8 to 10 minutes was just like, we are going. This show is already it's already full speed ahead. My reaction also, kind of going back to something I said last week, was that I feel like, even though I'm not steeped in the lore of this character in this Green Lantern universe, that the show has done such subversively done such amazing work helping me understand concepts before I need to know them, and then just going with it.
Yeah.
So we learn about the sort of ring charging dynamics and how it works in this universe and in this Green Lantern iteration. We learn so much about sort of the origin story of Hal in this episode. We learn so much more about Hal's character in this episode. Yet again, through the eyes of another character, going through his house and seeing that he has this giant mansion with no furniture in it, and nice lamps on milk crates and things next to the bed, and so it's the show just has so much to chew on visually and so much to talk about, and the writing is so good. I think I texted you after watching last night, like, the writing in the show is so good, and so I think just thinking about it from that aspect, I was already on board. I'm fully on board. I want more as soon as the episode is done, especially after this week. And now I think we're going to pump the brakes a little bit and get more of an origin story of John next week. But that's
what that trailer feels like. And
that seems to be. We'll talk more about that trailer at the end of our episode. So don't worry, guys. If you didn't watch the trailer, we're not going to talk about it. But after our sort of main discussion, we're gonna cue the music and then talk at length about what we saw and a couple other things I saw on social today, with regard to Sinestro and some stuff that we didn't see in that trailer. I don't know if that's next week or not, but yeah, let's break it down. What was your reaction, first of all?
I really loved that we got to watch Hal not with John this week, as much as I do love seeing them together, because we've not really gotten to watch Hal by himself yet to see how he acts.
Yeah, those scenes were amazing, where we got to see him kind of be an investigator and just kind of gumshoe detective, figuring out this whole thing. And multiple times where they were on the phone with each other and Hal's just doing something ridiculous while he's coaching, John through getting the lantern out of the pocket dimension and all that stuff. So yeah, it's so entertaining to watch.
We didn't even have a chance to talk about it on the show because I didn't clock it until I think after we recorded the trailer episode. I sent you a screenshot and I was like, there was that shot in the trailer of The Coming Weeks where he was dragging the body out of the morgue, that first body. And then I was watching later and I sent you a screenshot. I was like, he's got the corpse in the back seat of the car.
You saw, you spotted it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right!" And
much less 3 corpses or 4 corpses.
You got them all in there.
Only noticed I believe the term is alien goo. That's all over here.
The other best part of that scene was he had them all buckled in. If you go back and watch.
But I mean, even the moment when he is trying to find out where everybody else in the town, and he flies up in like town square just to take a look around and falls because he forgot he had less than 1% on the battery left. Which also, could I just say, I absolutely adore the fact that that there's a battery warning.
There's a Bluetooth speaker low battery warning on the ring. Once I saw what they were doing with that, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! That is hilarious."
Well, not only that, but the fact that he got down to 5% and he has a hack for it just
you got to hit it flush. Well, and, yeah, let's start out with that sort of opening scene with John and how the flight lesson, waking him up with the water.
Right.
What a great way to wake up.
No, yeah, it's fantastic. And John's very much in the in the clinch. Clinch, yeah, that's a good way to put it, because he literally tells him to unclench here in a second. But he's
unclench.
He's like, we got a case to work. We got all these dead aliens, and he's like, you want to be able to fly, right? I mean, you've been asking about flying, so let's do it.
Interestingly, before the flight lesson, John asks Hal, have you told the Guardians about Rushville, what's happening in Rushville? And he's like, why would I talk to no.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more sort of a not an Easter egg, but sort of like something that's notable, the fact that he's not he's not talking to the Guardians. He might not trust them. There's little to no chance the Guardians don't know about Rushville, I'm sure, but he is not being forthcoming with what he's up to.
He's not being forthcoming with anybody.
Yeah.
He is very much playing this all close to the chest, and we get a little more idea as to why. I mean, we get that whole thing of Abin Sur must have stashed the Manhunter here, and that's and knowing how close he was to all of this in 86. So it's playing out very parallel to Hal's own story, and I think that's really interesting. I loved his dynamic with the sheriff in this episode. I really enjoy watching the two of them play off of each other. To your point of Easter eggs, we find out she's from Gotham. I laughed.
A cane from Gotham?
A cane from Gotham. I laughed at everybody last week when she hung up with somebody and said, bye, Barb. And everybody was like, she's talking to Barbara Gordon. And I was like,
I did too. I was like, there's no way. That's a reach. And then it's like, oh no, it's Sheriff Kane from Gotham.
So interested to see if she has a sister that's somehow involved in things or something. I don't know. But I think just from the moment he walks in the town hall meeting and were you talking about me? You were talking about me, weren't you? And is just throwing himself into this investigation to the point. I loved his, like you kind of said, his gumshoe detective work, him going to the football stadium, him walking around, him noticing the metal detectors not going off, prying the grill off of of John's rental car.
The only metal part in the Camry, apparently.
I was like, you've got a crowbar. Why didn't you just walk?
I know. I was like, I saw him pick up the crowbar. I'm like, just walk through that with it.
Just
with that.
Walk through
he
with
said
the
he used the
crowbar
to like pry off the metal front of the car. Anyway, I love that. I loved being able to kind of watch him discover what was going on.
Yeah.
Right when he started going for the aliens, I was like, oh, he thinks it's an alien detector. Like you started to kind of solve the mystery with him, and I liked that a lot.
I saw somebody posit, they were like, maybe everybody in Rushville's an alien at this point.
Honestly, that's one of the theories, and it's like there's an awful lot of empty spaces in this episode. The hospital being weirdly empty, the town being weirdly empty, except for but you were able to kind of explain that away in the beginning because they were all at this town meeting, right? But then when he is in the hospital and he looks around and even he notices, he's like, I'm the only one here.
I'm the only one here. Weird. The equipment's all bagged up. I mean, where have you been to a hospital where somebody gets shot and released that close to each other? They were like, they cleared you for
you're good to go.
You're good to go.
Also,
like,
you're the only patient here. It's a small town, but even small towns have busy hospitals. So that is a notable thing, and I think we can talk more about that at length. That's definitely a fan theory that has popped up.
Interesting.
So I'm sure you saw that
good
as well.
to know. So I think that is all very fascinating. We of course get, and this overlaps a little bit with John's story, but we get Chekhov's suit. Because if they're going to show the suit, then we got to use the suit. I love how, I mean, even down to the lantern, but I loved the reverence of, I think I said last week, the fact that they're just hanging in dry cleaning, garment bags
Mm-hmm.
in his closet. It's just something he keeps tucked away, and it's something he doesn't care for. And then you see the way John holds it up in the mirror,
He's kind
and
of imagining himself wearing it.
yeah, what he
He
would
has
look like.
he has like a reverence for it. Yeah, like you said.
Right, and I think it's just the dichotomy of these two, and the juxtaposition of how Hal has been not corrupted, but just
Jaded.
the weight of it of
Yeah.
everything has weighed on him for the last however many decades, and it's all just so flippant to him now. I mean, you hear that at the end when he gets through that, he does the oath into the lantern, almost like the side effects of a pharmaceutical commercial, or a kid getting through having to say grace before a meal or something.
That was a detail that I really loved. It's like he said this 1,000 times before. Does he really? It's like at one point, I feel like in the first episode when Waylon started reciting the oath in front of him and he got super mad about the oath being said by this alien, that was one of the things that sort of triggered him to jump across the table and confront him physically. And then you see the oath in this episode being used so casually, just like, I just need to recharge this ring. Let's get through this, thing that I've said a million times before.
Yeah. Speed run the whole thing to charge the battery.
And I also love that as a show, like in most the comic book series is like or a movie, this moment would have been like a huge, like the music would have swelled. It's the first time we're seeing him recharge the ring.
But it's
like this, and in this show, we're not doing that. And
it's like everything else that this power and this ring and this ability have become to Hal. It's just an afterthought. I mean,
what a way to tell that story through just an action of his, instead of it just being a tropey kind of thing. I absolutely loved that little detail.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And then you've got John's story, which again jumps off from the flying lesson to what would you have done if I was able to fly? I mean, he's already bought him the plane ticket so he can head to Coast City. And
he's like, I guessed, or I had a hunch.
Right. I also was wondering what the end game there was going to be if he did fly, because it wasn't going to last very long.
You saw him. I loved his reaction. So let's go back to that flight lesson scene. There's a lot to pick apart there, kind of in the way that they play that. I love the little bit about, just fly. Like that's it. That's the lesson. Just fly. And he says it's instinctual, and he says, I'm a test pilot. I understand. He's like, I know, you've told me before.
Let's drop.
But yeah, it makes sense. He knows what. Yeah, it makes sense. He knows what flight feels like. He knows like the effects on his body that flight feels, and so it was instinctual to him to fly. So that's why he doesn't know how to teach it to John. So I like that as well.
I did too, and I don't even know if we said this last week, but kudos across the board on this production, but that flying looks really good. It looks really I mean, to the point that I want to go back and look at Superman and be like, why couldn't we make some of that look
crib
more
some
like
of these notes on the
It's just, and some of that's Kyle, some of that's just his natural charisma as he walks into that act of
Did you
the
see
liftoff.
that press event that they did, I think in London, where he made a comment or a speech and he said, all right, thanks guys, and he's like, I gotta go, and this is actually Kyle Chandler steps away from the podium and did the flying thing.
He did the thing. That's fantastic.
and so everyone was like, but it was just him joking. But you saw even in that off-camera moment, I mean, he was on camera, but not cinematically on camera, that the way he goes, a little bit more rigid to get ready to fly. And it's like, he has a muscle memory for this now, having shot the show, even in these in-person press events. It was so cool to see.
It has this, I don't know the right word, this echo almost for me of the way George Reeves would fly on the old 50s Adventures of Superman series. Of course, he would jump on a trampoline and jump out the window that you wouldn't see, that was cut off. So he'd get to the window, bounce on the trampoline, bounce out the window, and it's just it's not the same thing, but the same level of how serious he took that, and kind of how Kyle just, I don't know, there's just this natural strut he gets into when he does it, and it looks so cool.
Yeah. And also there's a bit of the effects taking over at some point, and again, I don't think there's a single effects shot in this show that I'm not completely blown away by, even when it's just the ring powering down after it runs out of batteries. And
I watched a breakdown today of how they did the $20 bill from the jukebox, and like the layers they used for that and everything. I'm like, this is just cool.
You keep seeing the name of this company in the credits, and I gotta say that's
Legacy.
top tier. Yeah, that's top tier effects work, and it's crazy that this is a television series. This feels like effects that would belong in like the highest budget movie you could possibly have.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I also noticed that the supervising producer at Legacy's name is Alan Scott. I was like, well, that checks boxes for me. That's good.
It could really be him. Just making sure that
he's honoring his namesake, if nothing else. And then you've got this construct that comes out of John's inability to fly. I don't want to call it inability to fly, but the fact that
we thought this was going to be just a one-time gag. We thought this bird was just,
the trailer made it just seem like it was going to be a joke, and it becomes this. It becomes a test for one thing, but it's also the importance of. I mean, you could see it in Hal's face when he realizes he's not even wearing the ring, and the construct is still.
Go back and watch that scene when he takes the ring off of John's hand, and he looks over it to see if the bird is still there, and it is, and then his face is like. and he's like, what's wrong? He's like, nothing. So that's the reaction is, well, this is interesting, but he plays it close to the chest. He's like, I'm not gonna reveal that I'm shocked by this.
No. And not until he, John interacts with the aliens does we even understand.
And they're the ones that tip John off. Yeah.
Right, that this is an important deal, and he comes back at the end of the episode, and he's like, "What's with that bird anyway?" And I wonder if there is going to be something with the bird, not specifically the construct of the bird, but a bird that from John's own history and life that somehow
I think we might learn that next week, probably.
Yeah, that somehow relegates to that.
And so, and I would love that if we did next week, because there's clearly something there, and I really liked that moment when Hal asks John what's up with the bird, because for the first time he seems to earnestly want to know a personal thing about John, and John, the walls go up immediately as soon, and he extinguishes the construct, and so it's like, ooh, that's interesting. That was the first kind of switch that we've had of Hal caring about John, I think, or wanting to know, and it was an earnest ask, and John shut it down.
I love too that when we do get to the end of this episode and kind of the follow through with Hal, and we know John is weary of trusting him, wondering if he can even trust him at all, and the kind of when he does open up about his day and what has transpired. If this were network television, that would be like episode 12,
right,
where that kind of that powwow happens between two people who've been butting heads for so long, and you've got it here at the end of the second hour, to the point that Hal takes off and in search of his own answers and more information about these manhunters, or specifically a manhunter, from his own history and the history of the Guardians, and he knows the one person who's gonna have that information is his old mentor, Sinestro, who is now imprisoned.
I think since you seem to you know more about Sinestro than I. I've done a little bit of digging. It might be worth just chatting a little bit about that backstory, because it does seem like we're going to get more between them. There does seem to be, like you said last week, about like the history repeating itself, that kind of thing.
And I wonder what kind of. I wonder if they're going to pull from a lot of different Sinestro storylines to make one whole one here, or if it's going to be one specific one we know of. Obviously, I don't know in universe here what Sinestro has done. I know in other versions of the what has happened and how he has been sabotaged by fear and becomes leader of the Yellow Lantern with his own corpse. And a lot of people questioned why the show was called Lanterns at the outset and not Green Lantern. And I question why that opening logo, the lantern, is glowing yellow as it pulls out and then turns.
It does green. A little bit of a color shift, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it does. And I just wonder.
That's intentional, I'm sure.
I wonder if we are going to see other colors come into play here. I don't think Sinestro. I get the feeling this Sinestro was not or has not come in contact with the yellow yet, but we shall see. Obviously, if you don't know, green is willpower for the lanterns, yellow is fear, and that's a big part of this show is the fear. I mean, it's literally the question they're getting asked: are you afraid? That's the one question.
Well, they're also diametrically opposed. Like one,
right?
If that's the reason why, it's sort of like the yin and the yang of that. If you have willpower, you can't have fear. And fear is the opposite of that. And I feel it does feel like that's a good way to understand of like why these two dynamics are at play.
Mm-hmm. And that's the second most popular ring / color. There's a lot of other ones: black, white, orange. I think we're getting into, and I think red is probably the third most important. Some may argue that yellow and red are as important to each other. I can't speak to that, but in my opinion, I think from everything I've read over the years and watched, it's yellow that really is the antithesis of the green, and that's why Sinestro plays that part so well in being Hal's mentor and a former and one of the most powerful lanterns, and obviously is corrupted by it. So I'm interested to learn more about. I love that apparently there's just a Wikipedia article about.
I like
Sinestro.
that. Let's talk about that a bit, because like the first time we hear the word Sinestro, I think in the show is when Sheriff Kane asks Hal about. You were tell me about Sinestro. You were saying his name in your sleep.
Yeah, in your sleep.
In my in my little sort of notes in my head, I was like, did he or does she know who he is?
Yeah.
And then she pulls up a
dossier.
Apparently a Wikipedia page is just publicly available about this thing that he is super uptight about talking about. Kind of love that. And
this is where Jimmy Olsen would come perfectly into play, because you're like, if he's like, well, I'm looking up this on the Daily Planet, and Jimmy Olsen seems very much the kind of person that would be cultivating and doing all these kind of breakdowns of villains. We know that obviously this week the Jimmy Olsen spinoff series was greenlit, so that made me think of that too. I was like, who is doing these wiki articles on Sinestro? Because I think that's fascinating. I wish there was some more in-universe explanation as to that, but we've got while this is going on with Hal, and then we'll talk more about this in John's storyline, but this plays back into how John finds out about the Manhunters, what that backstory is. There's a lot of people who I get the feeling a lot of people think that the group that had him held against his will were Red Lanterns. I don't think that that's atrocitus, or at least not yet. I don't. I could be proven wrong. I didn't think that Sheriff was going to be from Gotham, so I would be happily proven wrong if we find out.
All guesses are equally as plausible. It seems
everything is on the table, which is great. And what makes that even more fun to me is because, harkening back to what we talked about at the beginning, at the top of this episode, you do exist in a world where there is a Superman and there is a Batman and there are all these other characters. So the possibilities are endless with what you could do. Now, I think one of the things that has made this show so well done, and it goes back to, I think, to the chagrin of a lot of people that we talked about last week that were not happy about the idea of a space cop show set in Nebraska. You've kind of got the perfect recipe for it with an alien that's hiding in town.
And, you said it. You said it in our episode last week, or during our trailer sort of discussion. It's like, what better, whodunit than a shape-shifting alien that can just wreak havoc and then disappear, blend into the town. So it's it feels like this also is deeply rooted in the lore of Green Lantern too.
Yeah,
the Manhunters. So I feel like once the show started leaning in that direction, you have a lot of people kind of sitting up and being like, are they really gonna make this the thing with this show? And how interesting is that to sort of set this in this town of Rushville, which may or may not be totally constructed by the Manhunter.
Who could say, who is this benefactor while we're at it? There's so many questions I have. And
here's a couple of theories that I've heard, is that it's like the benefactor could just be this Manhunter that has constructed this entire town as a way to shroud himself and keep himself
or
hidden.
herself.
Or herself,
or their self. Now, the Manhunters are synthetic, so they're robots.
Yeah, they are.
And that's if you're wondering about Manhunters, again, I don't want people to get hung up on that term because of Martian Manhunter, who's a very popular, of course, Justice League character. And the Manhunters were kind of the original failsafe for the Guardians before recruiting living beings to be in the Corps. The Guardians constructed these Manhunters, and they kind of went rogue with the disillusion of the way things were in the universe. And you've got the Sector 666 storyline where they decimate, so much of life. It sounds like in this one that all but one were eradicated.
And Abin Sur was tasked with taking him somewhere and either imprisoning him or killing him. They said that the aliens that abducted John were saying that he was supposed to kill him, and something went wrong. So and we get that sort of piece together at the end with Hal saying he must have Abin Sur must have been killed by the Manhunter he was bringing here to get rid of. And then John chimes in, well, that's and so you got your ring. So this is all tied together.
Mm-hmm.
Hal getting the ring in the first place is tied to this Manhunter being in this area at all.
Which makes it all the more personal for him. So that's a great tie-in to keep it grounded and keep it, where it's located. We joked last week that we had a in-universe reason for Hal to be stuck in the town. With
which was immediately
penny to rest, which was
hand waved away.
Waved away by Mr. Ritter in this episode.
I did like the sort of slow rollout of, or not really, honestly, this town meeting he gets in, and as hilarious as it was, we do get that bit of dialogue of like, we had them drop your charges. You can go now. Bye. Like, bye. And so it's like
there's absolutely no reason for you to stay in Rushville.
You should.
By the way, I didn't know Rushville was a real town.
It is a real town.
Today.
Yeah,
I looked it up today. I was like, a population of like 700 or something. I was like, no,
it is a real town.
A real place.
You can look it up. It sure does. I've looked it up on Google Maps. It sure does look like that they shot in the real town. I'm sure that there's an awful lot of movie magic happening here, but it part of me kind of feels like we should go there.
We're doing the finale live from Rushville.
Live from Rushville Civic Center.
That's where our shoe vacation will be next year.
We won't be the only Green Lantern fans that.
You went to Rushville, Nebraska? Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
This is Derek and I have been to lots of different places.
We've done less with more. Let's
exactly.
Or more with less, I guess.
Anything that might have even slightly grazed the lens of a television show, that we will go there.
We've done it. Yeah.
But yeah, this is I feel like what we're getting in this episode is the stakes are here, and the main conflict is also here. We've gotten that all laid out here as well, with the Manhunters. I feel like it's interesting that Hal doesn't know more about the Manhunters,
or hasn't led on to what I'm so interested in this conversation with Sinestro, and again, we'll talk about it more in spoilers. There's a few lines we have heard Sinestro say weren't uttered in this episode, so in trailers and promos. So it'll be interesting to see how that conversation plays out between the two of them. Nobody can get under Hal Jordan, like under his skin, like Sinestro can.
I'm sure we'll see that.
Yeah, he knows which strings to pull, and you literally already see that just from the little. I mean, he said, if that's true, if there's a Manhunter, he's the second greatest threat you're facing right now. Why don't you tell me about John Stewart? And it's like, how do you know about John Stewart?
That was my first question. It's like, excuse me, how
who's
being out in this space prison? How do you know about? Yeah,
right.
So.
I'm interested to see more of this backstory. I hope we get to see a flashback of Sinestro training Hal, or
I think we
mentoring
will.
Hal.
I feel confident that we'll, because I feel like there's at least been a still shot somewhere where he's not wearing the prison suit, so that might confirm it for me. But honestly, I've only seen a few sort of comic book renditions on covers of Green Lantern comics that I've been being sent over the last couple of weeks.
Sure.
Perfect casting for Sinestro, it seems like. It seems like you could not have found a more perfect match for
everybody on this show. I mean, again, props across the board, but I don't feel there's nobody that I've been like, why is he here, or why are they here? Who do you think the Manhunter is?
In town, just since we just are being led to believe.
People, I mean, of a true whodunit, we've already met the person. I mean, we
for sure.
I would say so.
The Manhunter has been on screen.
It would be dumb to wait and introduce that character or something in week 3 or 4, halfway through the series. So I think it's logical to think we've already met.
For sure. I think whenever it is revealed, it will be like this grand, they were in front of our eyes the whole time. We didn't realize it, that kind of moment in the show. But again, the show does seem to subvert the expectations of the fans. So I don't know exactly what will transpire. There's a lot of guesses out there. Some people are saying, maybe it's the sheriff. Maybe it's
seen
Macon.
that.
Maybe it's.
I think a lot of people are leaning on Zoe because of
Zoe. Yeah.
What is her role, if not something more. I don't know if devious is the right word, but if not something more hidden or intricate.
She also she's very mysterious. She also pops up in places you wouldn't expect, and yeah.
So I think that one's an interesting bet. And then obviously her connection with John could lend itself to helping her out in the long run. I have seen some people say maybe it's the grandson, maybe it's Sheriff's kid is the Manhunter, which would be interesting. I don't foresee that, but that again, this show likes to subvert expectations, as you said. So who knows?
Yeah. So it's do you think there is another theory that the Manhunter is someone that we haven't seen,
For sure.
that they have kept at least up. It's only this again, you guys. It's only the second episode,
second hour.
We
Yeah,
maybe haven't met this character yet, or who may end up being the Manhunter. So that is, I don't know. I feel like after 2 episodes, we've probably already met who it's going to end up being, but.
And then you've got John's story, which his day goes very differently from Hal's. He is sent to Coast City. Love getting a Coast City reference. To retrieve the lantern from a pocket dimension in Hal's closet. This is the 3rd or 4th pocket dimension we've already gotten in the DCU.
DCU is really leaning into the pocket dimensions.
We like the pocket dimension,
but it is like a very true to the lore of Green Lantern. Yeah, they all, not all of them, but a lot of them tend to keep their lanterns / power batteries in pocket dimensions that are very hard to have people steal.
I thought it was this thing really that they need so much. That the ring had a man's voice. And the lantern had a woman's voice.
Well, was it just the safe? He had
or the box? Yeah, the box having a female voice. That was interesting to me. But John is retrieving the lantern so that the ring can have a charge. Obviously, the suit is there right next to it as well. It's hard for him not to pick that up.
How cool does the lantern look on screen?
The lantern. We're talking about this, and you'll hear my episode with Elias from the Ring Foundry that joined me today, and talking about just the aesthetics of rings and kind of the Art Deco look and how they've crafted the lantern, and it very well fits this universe. And I feel.
I think I read somewhere the lantern, the look of the lantern was inspired by sort of like old railroad. Lanterns. And so this like Fresnel lens, and there's like hints of a Fresnel lens in the ring itself too, the way they've designed it in this show. As a former lighting nerd, that's was fun to see but that lantern looks so cool. And if you did stick around after the episode aired and watch their sort of like behind the scenes featurette, that the constructing the series thing that they're doing after the trailer, there's a moment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a moment that they have that's a bit of an outtake of the moment that they shot that first take of John taking the lantern out of the box. And the director is like, look, our talent is geeking out over this lantern. And they turned the camera over to him. And he's like, ooh, like they seemed all to be so like thrilled with how it looked, and they were geeking out over how cool it was. And it's like, this, if the show was made by people that are this excited about the lantern being on screen for the first time, then I think we're in good hands. And that was a cool thing to see.
I love too, we talked about it a minute ago with the suit, but you can see the way John is holding this thing, the reverence he has for it. There's so much I want to say about that. I'm going to hold it till spoilers. So if you do want to hear that, stick around to the end of the episode. We'll get more into the trailer for next week and discussing spoilers or more overlaid theories, I guess. But I love seeing John. I mean, it's mythology to him in a way. It's the way he is approaching these artifacts, this suit, this lantern, this ring. I mean, even with the way he puts on the ring for the flight lesson, and the back up a little bit, the just everything, the way he is approaching the thing that is so close that he can almost taste it, but just can't quite get to it. Is really phenomenal.
Yeah, this is again. So what a fantastic episode. Is there anything? I feel like so we have jumped around a bit, but I do feel like it's worth kind of going in depth on some of these scenes.
And I think specifically the interrogation scene with John here is
we get yet another interrogation scene. Another phenomenal,
very much heated interrogation scene that is John experiences what the loss is like of this race that was wiped out by the Manhunters, and the emotional ramifications stay with him as a result of the thing being injected into his head. And they've pretty much given him a countdown of 48 hours to identify this Manhunter. They can't walk in the city anymore. I want to know where all of these triggers and alarms are set, these identifiers that are detecting alien life forms.
It feels like William Macon has outfitted the town with these. There's one in the, if you notice it, there's one in the community center that they all had to go through to get into that meeting. Like, I'm sure we're going to see that he's got them placed kind of blanketing the town so that he can know when aliens are around.
I know
they seem to sense alien biology and react so that and that he will know. I feel like
the point made last week of there's 12 or 14 different races
that can pass.
That doesn't seem to be the case with this technology. It's automatically detecting them,
except for Waylon, because he did not trigger the alarm, and that's why he ended up not getting shot by Macon's men. And so when he got captured and was in there to be interrogated by Hal, that's why Macon was so like, I'm going to clear this brush. You're going to interview him. I want you to tell me if he's an alien because he passed my detection.
Right.
And it turns out he was an alien. And so there might be more than one species trying to infiltrate Rushville and find this Manhunter. If that's what's actually going on. There's another fan theory that this group that is enlisting John might be part of sort of this whole plan to help the Manhunter.
Right.
And I think that's curious and also interesting if you take it from that, like, they're aliens. Can we trust at face value what they're telling John? Probably not. But
I mean, they abducted him. They beat the hell out of him.
They at least apologized for the violence.
They did.
Which was
great.
They did. But my first instinct was like, whatever story he's spinning is just to get John to do the thing that he wants. It's not actually what is happening here. Now that he has set a clock and given him a device or a phone to call him, but my immediate reaction was like, when John finds the Manhunter and calls this group, what's going to happen is probably not what we expect. It's probably not like they're just going to swoop in and kill him. Like, no, I think that maybe there's the opposite effect might happen.
And if you watch the trailers, I don't think they're going to meet their deadline because it does look a lot of destruction gets rained on Rushville at some point. And thankfully, Hal is there to circumvent some of it. But it does look like there's hell in Rushville for sure. I mean, it does look like they pull down destruction upon the town, hell hath and fury. So, but we do get this kind of more backstory on why this one is being protected. We've talked about that with Abin Sur, and possibly was on the way to Rushville to kill it, maybe to hide it, maybe to protect it, maybe something happened to Abin Sur in the process, and the Manhunter escaped and has just been hiding out ever since in the town. Who can say at this point? One thing I think we can say is I don't know that there is one character on this show whose drive has been fully exposed yet. And I'll say that for Hal and John too. I think they've both got their own agendas in some form or fashion here, especially Hal. And so I think everybody is still shrouded in mystery. Speaking of, have you noticed the HBO Max avatars, the profile pictures?
That they've been changing, but
they've only released 3, and the rest of them are all question marks.
Interesting. So, this is like so you can change your profile picture.
So you can change your profile picture on
HBO
Max. You can be Hal or John, but the rest of them you can't pick yet. They're all question marks.
I'm sure Sinestro will be
really
one of them.
Interesting as well.
That is, yeah. It's like we're still rolling out these things that are tied to the show.
Mm-hmm.
So who's the benefactor?
Yeah, Lex Luthor. I don't know. I've seen Lex Luthor and I've seen Bruce Wayne, and I'm like, everybody just wants Batman to get mentioned. You got Gotham. You got a reference.
Yeah, we've already got. I feel like we've already got the Batman reference out of the way for this show. I would be shocked if there are more, but maybe not. I don't know.
We know Batman exists. We just haven't met him yet. So just relax. He'll show up when he shows up. He always shows up, so you'll get him at some point. Let us have our. As I was talking with Elias today, I was like, it's nice to have a little feast for Superman fans and Green Lantern fans, especially Green Lantern fans who almost get nothing.
Because it seems like Batman fans have just gotten
everything all the time.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to get to watch these characters that are so beloved and so, again, mythical. Off the page and onto the screen that are beloved by fans for X number of years. I think we were talking last week about how identifying your favorite lantern sometimes is with your age group,
right?
And but so many people love Hal, and I think Green Lanterns have gotten a bad rap. Going back to the Ryan Reynolds movie, whether you loved it or you hated it, that's it's become a big joke over the last decade or longer, 15 years now. Yeah, about 15 years that movie's been out, and so to see something so well done and also just shrouded in mystery at the same time that you get to unravel week to week is really exciting for me. And I'm a novice when it comes to this, but I really enjoy these characters from the pages of DC Comics. So getting to watch them flesh out more on screen is huge for me.
Same, and I've started pretty like blank slate with this, and now I feel like from just 2 episodes of this show, I'm like, give me more comics to read about this. Like, I really like this whole story. You mentioned Rebirth last week.
Mm-hmm.
Got it right here.
There you go.
I've already ordered Secret Origin as well. So nice. From what I understand, and I've been led to believe that Rebirth and Secret Origin are kind of the touchstones of this show, of in terms of where they're kind of pulling from. Not everything.
Vibes, I'd say the vibes are very obviously not the story because this is new and
right.
Special.
But in terms of like the rules and that kind of the world building and
the
lore
and the lore heavy lore.
And so that's
pulling up.
Those will be the first 2 that I start with.
I pulled out my Kyle Rayner. I went and picked up the other day because I've had floppies, but not the actual thing. But this is what follows the death of Superman. This is Hal getting corrupted and everything. And I was actually even thinking about Hal wearing his sling from where he was shot in the episode, and him after the resurrection of Superman, how he's hurt in battle and he's constructed a sling that he's wearing in the fallout from that. And I don't know. I love these little things that I feel like the Leo pointing gif, just
every time,
and pointing.
I feel like we're never going to catch every single Easter egg that they have snuck into to this show. There are a couple of YouTube channels out there that are literally picking apart every frame, but
good for them. I don't have time for that.
I do not have that kind of attention to detail or time
or the mentality for that. I love getting to discuss what I question and what I understand, and not what I think, and not what and not. She's on the phone with Barb. It's Gotham.
Someone called that out
proven wrong on
well
that.
Before the Gotham reference, and that
yeah. So I'm with you. I thought this was on par, if not even better than last week. I really, as far as world building goes, it's even more the questions surrounding not only our fugitive in Rushville, but the town itself is just as big as mystery, just as big of a mystery as the Manhunter is. Um, whether you want to get held up on who the benefactor for Macon is, or the alien tech and all those kinds of things. I think they're doing a fantastic job with it, and I can't wait to see where we go from here.
Same here. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that the tale they are weaving, the mystery that they are starting to kind of unfold in front of our eyes is super interesting. Only 2 episodes in, that's incredible to me, to be this invested in the story already. And I think we're going to learn a lot more about John next week and how sort of like how he became John. I think we're going to get that sort of origin story. We're going to talk a lot about the basically 30-second trailer that had, even for a short trailer, there's a lot to talk about, to be honest. We'll talk about that after the break here. But yeah, I think we can leave it there. And but yeah, for sure later this week, I think in a couple of days after we release this episode, listen to the interview that Derek did with Elias at the Ring Foundry. It's awesome. He seems
he was great to talk to. I've been following him since Superman came out last year, and just seeing the work that he did on Guy Gardner, trying to emulate those things, and I really enjoyed speaking with him today. So please watch for that. And I would be remiss if I did not mention Hal Jordan has met the cast of Harry Potter.
We forgot to mention that in the house, there's that Easter egg. Yes.
We didn't even talk about Earl. There's so much other stuff to talk about that we didn't even get to Earl.
Earl, the carnivorous plant, space plant, probably. But I loved sort of the ridiculousness of that, especially after we just got the Mogo doesn't socialize. It's like so much of the sort of campiness of the show is being snuck in with it's such a heavy show, and the stakes feel so high, but then the campiness kind of like sneaks up on you sometimes, but in a very grounded way. Loved that in this episode.
I loved Tim, our producer, said, I hope there's a rumor. I don't like rumors, but there's a rumor that, because this happened with Peacemaker, that, everybody's thinking Superman's going to show up in the finale, which, whatever. I would be shocked, but
it's DC. Whatever. Your most popular DC characters are all on the board. So
Luther showed up in Peacemaker, so who can say? But it would be nice. But he said that's something, that's a plant / creature that Clark would have in the Fortress of Solitude in the Menagerie. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. That's very much something that would be there. So who knows? Like you say, anything is on the table. But yes, I don't even like Harry Potter, and I felt the need to mention that apparently Hal Jordan is a huge Harry Potter fan. Also, he's met the Pope, presidents, and he gets around. So
again, that scene of just walking through Hal's house did so much character development. From just showing off, a space. It was different from last week with the interrogation where like Hal's literally in the next room and there's people in another room talking about him. But this time it's like we get to see sort of how he lives. You can tell a lot about a person by how they keep their house. And
when are you going to move in? What are you talking about?
I've been here for 8 years, and he's like, I got a bed, I got a closet, So it's, again, I feel like we could talk about this episode for another hour, but I'm eager to talk about this trailer as well.
We do have a lot to talk about, and we do want to hear from all of you too. So please email us your theories, your thoughts, mail@superhouseofl.com. We will read them on the air. We got one email this week from our buddy Jason, who says, hello, gents. Big thought for episode 2. I thought John would have better situational awareness. I did. When he got jumped, I was like, I felt like you probably would have been more aware of what was going on around you at the time outside the mansion. Jason goes on to say, I agree with you about the casting of the show. Excellent work all the way around. I'm loving the combo of Hal and John. It started strong, and I feel it's going to be the driving power behind the whole show. Since they are downplaying the cosmic superhero aspect, I think that this relationship is the brightest part of the story, and I'm here for it. No pun intended, I'm sure there, Jason. It really does feel like we're expanding the story with each episode in terms of relationships and the wider aspect of the Lantern Corps in general. I'm a fan of Kyle Chandler, but I came to know him best in Early Edition and not from Friday Night Lights. Early Edition is a great companion to Quantum Leap if anyone needs something to watch while waiting for the next episode. I agree. I'm a huge Early Edition fan, and that is also where I met Kyle Chandler. Graham, check out a trade paperback of Hard Traveling Heroes, which has Hal Jordan and Oliver Queen, so Green Lantern and Green Arrow, traveling the open road, dealing with street-level issues in Middle America. Thanks for the episodes, and until the blackest night, I'll be listening.
Perfect.
So,
thank you so much for that recommendation. I'm gonna.
You have a lot of recommendations.
I have a lot of reading to do. This is the first podcast I've ever done that I have homework on, but But yeah, that's super well said. I think that that calling out the relationship between the two characters, as we kind of mentioned, it's so strong on camera, off camera. So yeah, lean in. The story leans in for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that I feel like they have to use that to their advantage, where like the on-screen chemistry, even though they're kind of bickering, is going to make any eventual conflict between the two of them feel so much heavier. And
absolutely. And I recorded a reel that I have not yet posted, but something I missed upon the first watch of the episode in that end moment, that shocking end moment with Sheriff and John entering the snowy football stadium. John sheds a single tear. And to me, that harkens back to the beginning of the episode with him watching Hal in the 60 Minutes interview and just beaming with pride, smiling, watching the TV, seeing a superhero being interviewed. I just think that was such a poignant moment to see that single tear shed there at the end of the pilot for his fallen friend. Maybe not fallen friend. Maybe it's not him. Who can say? I don't know.
It's not him.
Maybe not him at all.
That's also a popular fan theory that I'm seeing is like, don't just immediately accept what your eyes are seeing. But
right.
Here's another interesting bit is like, now that we've seen another episode's worth of information and the theory about Rushville as a town, like, is Rushville a real place? Is it being sort of materialized by this manhunter? Because they can create they can synthesize things. They can create new technologies that are beyond our understanding. And so we make this jump 10 years in the future, and Sheriff Carey still around, Rushville still around, albeit a little bit worse for wear in some of these shots.
Yeah, a little worse for wear. Yeah.
And so there's that. It's like the these sort of guesses that Sheriff Carey might be the manhunter are sort of like, well, she's around 10 years later, even though the events of our show are set in 2016. So I don't know what to make of that time jump. Now I'm even less sure of what's happening in the time jump than I was.
And that's good TV, folks.
That is good television.
When they completely change your opinion from week to week, and you have no clue what's going on. Excited to dive more into the spoilers with you. Please stick around for that if you're interested. If not, you can always find us online, superhouseofl.com. We're on all the social media channels at superhouseofl, and you can watch us over on YouTube, thanks to the amazing work of Mr. Graham Hancock, who's been putting our episodes out there. So if you don't always enjoy listening and you like a little watch with your podcast, check us out on YouTube. It's just
our faces. I don't know why you would want to watch our faces while we talk, but you can do that if you want. We're making that available.
Yeah, I was told, some people have a face for radio. I have a face for podcasting. So that's a step down even further. We're going to come back after the music and talk spoilers for episode 3. And we hope you'll stick around and listen. If not, we will see you next time.
All right, we're back. So, episode
Here's
3
everything
trailer.
that happens in episode 3. No,
We've got the script. We're just going to read it to you.
We're going to read it for you verbatim.
Episode 3 trailer, 30 seconds. Very quick. It was not the full season trailer that we got last week. So we're very much now on this like week to week, like here's what's happened. Here's what's going to happen next week. And you're only going to get a glimpse.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
The title of the episode, Outcast, with the capitalized K, which means it's a reference to the hip hop duo.
There's going to be a needle drop, right?
There's definitely, if there's not a needle drop in this episode, I will be disappointed.
Surely knowing John's backstory, bombs over Baghdad is going to be used at some point, right? It would be remiss if not.
I would have to assume that this episode is heavily John's backstory.
Yeah.
We're going to see his military service. We're going to see at probably at multiple points how Hal has intervened or caused issues with either John Jr. or John Sr.
John Sr. Something you and I talked about off air was how we thought the reason that John Sr. seems so angry at the beginning of the pilot is because maybe he was approached first for the ring, and
certainly looking like that might have been the case based on a few shots here.
Didn't he shoot the TV at one point?
He shoots
with
the
Hal
TV
on screen.
So, and I've got some interesting things to point out about that moment because it's very quick in the trailer. So the trailer starts with John falling in sort of like some dreamlike sequence. He falls onto some mattresses. I'm not even sure if this is actually happening or if this is like a dream or a vision of some sort.
When I saw the episode was called Trust Fall, I thought that sequence, because it is in the earlier trailers, I thought that was going to be in this episode.
So interesting, but that's the least I think of. I mean, and I'm sure when we see this episode, it might actually be super important, similar to how the bird was last week. But the rest of this trailer is all just so meaty in terms of trying to interpret what's going on with John Sr. and how what he's decided to do. So we feel like episode 3 is definitely going to deliver some substantial backstory here. And right after that following sequence, we get the Laura Linney Guardian scene that we've kind of seen in trailers past, asking, "Do you know who I am?" You know, obviously he knows who she is. Then we get a couple of flashes. We see Baby John. We assume that's Baby John. Pretty sure that's Baby John with a green glow coming. And it seems like a shot from the inside of John Sr.'s house back in the past. So probably in sometime in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And so yeah, it's probably early 90s or like 1990 or because in 96 he's already like a
well, it may predate 86. Yeah, it may predate 80s. Well, yeah, I guess if he's a baby, I don't know what the age range is there, but if it is the fact that Hal is John Sr. is looked over and then goes to Hal, that would be mid 80s, I would think. So,
but in this quick flash, it's John as an infant, we assume, with the green glow, and then another quick shot of John Sr. in bed, inside of his bedroom, green glow coming in from outside his window. So it's like, is he being visited by a lantern? Is it Hal? We don't know.
Have you seen the official photos that dropped today?
I did not see it today, but you can
fill me in. It does look like Laura Linney visits the Stewart family.
Got it. So it sure is looking like he was asked. John Sr. was asked.
He was asked if he was afraid, and apparently he was.
Yeah, because he has a kid. He has something to lose.
If that is the driving force of making his son fearless, so that he is asked in turn, that's a maniacal character. I don't care what is his passion or his fatherhood is. That's a dangerous road to be on. I mean, obviously we see him shooting live rounds at his son, William Tell style.
We've established that this man has
there was no question about that.
Yeah, an edge to him. we see Laura Linney asking older John, this is around the time when most candidates ask, why me? And John says, I know exactly why me. So we see kind of more flashes of the apple being, and starting this sort of training.
For this.
He was trained for this. He was basically groomed. I don't want to use that word, but like groomed to be a Green Lantern. And so as we kind of kick off the rest of the trailer, the sort of second half of it, we see that there's like this resentment among John Sr. As there is this shot of a television showing Hal in the suit with the mask.
He's got the mask on.
So that's the first time we will have seen Hal wearing the mask, right? In the show, this picture, or was
Did they not show a quick shot of it at the beginning of this episode?
Might have been.
I want to say there was a shot in the previously on that was the 60-minute interview, but it was
with the mask.
It was extra footage that wasn't in it, but I may be wrong on that. I may be getting confused with the trailer.
It stood out to me on this trailer that because I feel like I hadn't seen him wear the mask yet.
Okay.
But that is something so if you do see this scene, it's Hal in the full suit in the mask. It's a news broadcaster. This is like the over the shoulder graphic of Hal, so he's being talked about. John Sr. shooting the television.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's resentment there. Clearly, and I think I think you're right. I think it's lining up with John Sr. was passed over because he was afraid or had fear. Now he is resentfully raising his son to take Hal's place as his replacement.
Mm-hmm.
So we do also see, and there's a couple character moments in this trailer of John Sr. buying young John a Green Lantern shirt, costume, suit.
Yeah.
It looked very like rudimentary, like it almost looked
extremely.
So
spandex almost.
Yeah. And then we see sort of the start of the apple shooting marksmanship drill with the training him to be fearless. So yeah, it's looking like you were on the right track there. You and many other folks that I saw on social media.
I will say our good friend William Goodman, writer for GQ and Men's Health, has seen this episode. I preface that by saying he's not told me anything.
He hasn't talked about it with us, no.
But
he has said it's a good one.
He has said of the ones he has seen, this was his favorite hour. So I'm interested to see how it unfolds. I do think we do have 8 weeks total, but now we've got a 48-hour timestamp. So I do understand the pumping the brakes for a week and having this. I do think we're going to get something similar with Hal. We've seen those shots of more 2006 Hal that we've not seen before. I keep calling him 2006 Hal because he looks reminiscent of the hologram. So I do think we're going to get a Hal flashback story as well. I know there was that one shot of a military style funeral that looked like a young Hal Jordan. That would most likely be his father's funeral. You can really get into something between these two fathers and their sons too. That there being some common ground that Hal and John can find in the way that they were brought up, and I think I
wonder if this is not just an episode that touches on just John's backstory, but
right.
And so I think we may get a little bit of Hal, or maybe sort of like a dual thing, like we had this week with Hal's story and John's story.
HBO loves to do that thing where we get. It's not even HBO. I'll say a lot of shows now, like Stranger Things, have done this. When you get to the episode before the penultimate episode, and you're like, "Oh, we're about to get into it," and then you realize there's 2 episodes left, and so then there's this one more pump the brake kind of hour.
Yeah,
that just
I wouldn't be
is a
surprised
if
this is that
end.
for us. Yeah.
Yeah, if Hal's episode is number 7 or not. Reviewers have not seen the finale. Several have seen through episode 7, so I'm interested to see. Obviously, both Warner Brothers and HBO had a lot of faith in the series, going ahead and putting out 7 weeks in advance for some writers. So I think we've got as many questions as we've posed for this week. We'll have even more next week and probably less the answers.
I know, and I think that's the fun of talking about this show. It very much feels like the old days when we were just kind of, making wild guesses and hoping they paid off even a little bit, even if it was like a percentage right. It was fun to have that pay off.
And we got a lot right back then, but it seemed like it was a lot easier to get things right back then.
It does. It feels like almost quaint how much easier it was to guess what was actually happening, versus now where like you were saying, like anything could happen in this show and it would be totally believable, because of the sort of the way that this show has sort of been kind of a blank slate reboot of this lore of this universe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm fully on board. I'm excited. This trailer, albeit short, had a lot in it, and I feel like this episode, I'm looking forward to it for that reason. A couple of things. I know were there any other things in the stills that they dropped today?
No, I think every picture was from the Guardian meeting with the family and Mrs. Stewart holding a young, presumably young John baby in her arms. So that may be I could see John Jr. being around the age of saying he was 10 in that opening 5 minutes, maybe. So if this is
we're gonna keep doing the 10 thing.
Yeah, clearly. And I think we're gonna
keep it easy by thinking of it in 10-year increments all throughout.
And we're gonna
the
go
show,
past that even because I think some of what we've obviously seen, him shooting the TV, they don't know who Hal is at the point in the first 5 minutes of the pilot. So I think that's gonna come after the fact, with as more things come out.
Well, like John
obviously.
Sr. would know who Hal is, right? Because
I don't know.
Well, that might be what the news report is like, who's this guy? Yeah, and then but John knows,
right?
Because he got passed over for him.
So obviously, I don't know that it's not a situation where the Guardian's going to be like, okay, well, you failed, so now we're going to go to Kyle Rayner. But
I know,
it is. I do think that because there is that line last week of who is he? He's a test pilot, and he's like test pilot, but he hadn't. So, but there's military there in this family as well. So there's a likelihood that he and Hal may know each other. We shall see.
I think that's super likely that even after Hal became Green Lantern, that John Sr. cozied up next to him or found some way to be involved with his work.
There's a reason that all this is intertwining. There's got to be.
Yeah.
So I don't know what has,
because it seems like he knows so much about what Hal is doing, in that he trained his son to be a perfect replacement for him. So I hope that this episode explains a lot about that and what the driving force is behind that. If not anything more than just animosity
I know they
missing out on that opportunity.
Yes, and they briefly touched on this episode too at the press conference you were at the other day, talking about how he was brought up, and I think we're gonna understand a whole lot more about John's resentment toward Hal, but also I still think he holds him in a place of reverence at the same time. And I think we're going to understand so much more of that after episode 3.
Yeah, this is so what I was going to ask you before. So this is not on the trailer that came at the end of the episode this week. This was a clip on social that was just posted by the official DC account or HBO account. I'm not sure, but it was basically like a character reveal of Sinestro, but it was a quote I hadn't heard him say in the show yet, on any trailer we had seen yet. And it was a statement from Sinestro, not wearing a prison uniform, like he was wearing a black shirt or something like that. And it said, he might have been a suit, I don't know. It was a close shot. And he said, "Fear is the most powerful force in the universe. Show me a species that's fearless and I'll show you something on the extinction list.
Hmm.
So I don't think that this comes in next week, unless it's at the end of next week, similar to how we tagged Sinestro at the end of the episode. But
I think the only other thing we've seen, and I could see this opening up next week right where we left off with Sinestro, because he literally is asking him, tell me about Jon Stewart, because we've also seen another trailer. He poses,
that could be a good way in.
That is a good way to set up Jon's backstory. It also poses the question to Hal, you don't really think he's your backup, do you? And then say what he really is, my replacement. So
that may be the way the episode ends. I think you're probably right. They sort of bookend it with Sinestro talking to Hal, and then in the meat of the episode is sort of all of this backstory. That feels like
it's a good storytelling device, at least.
Yeah, that feels like that's how it might be used. Anyway, we're just leaning on old
that's what
old
we do.
Experienced podcaster tropes.
That's what we do.
The
here.
muscle memory we have here.
It's fun to come back at the end of the episode and talk about spoilers. So that's something you can expect moving forward in these next few weeks as well.
I know every time they have a trailer, which I don't think we're guaranteed to have one at the end of every episode, but it sure seems like that they are holding things from the trailers we've already seen to be shown at the end of each episode. So
at least they're not like those Barry trailers. You remember those?
Yeah, where they were just so like not
just
even
some
useful.
out of shot with no nothing.
They had something to do with the next episode, but it was usually like a very non sequitur.
Leo pointing gif. When we would get there, we'd be like, "That was it." But it's always some weird out of context.
And that was just Bill Hader having fun, subverting expectations
with the audience. Yep. So I'm excited for Outcast. I think obviously I trust William Goodman a lot, and knowing when he says it's one of the finest hours of the series, I believe him, and I'm excited to dive into it. And he's going to come on the show and talk about it with us as well. So that's exciting too.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about this with William, especially I don't know when we're going to have him on, but hopefully relatively soon. Maybe after, I don't know how far he has seen, but obviously we would want to have him on to talk about stuff that he has seen that we haven't seen. So we need to wait till we're caught up with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. And again, if you want to find us online, superhouseofl.com, across social media at superhouseofl. But send us your theories, what you think is going to happen. Tell us if you want us to hold it off for the spoiler section. We'll save it for the end and read your emails here as well. Mail@superhouseofl.com.